Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentlemen, thank you for your service. Thank you for being here today. Director Coates, in your written testimony, you said, quote, Iran remains the most prominent state sponsor of terrorism, providing financial aid, advanced weapons and tactics, and direction to militant and terrorist groups across the Middle East, and cultivating a network of operatives across the globe as a contingency to enable potential terrorist attacks. As you know, as part of the Obama nuclear deal, billions of dollars flowed into Iran, including $1.7 billion in unmarked cash delivered in pallets in the dark of night. In your judgment, has some of those billions of dollars, has some of that money been used to finance terrorist operations?
Likely.
What, in your judgment, is the greatest terrorist threat posed by Iran?
Iran has a lot of malign activities going on right now, but it seems to me that the greatest current threat is the support for Hezbollah and Hezbollah's positioning itself against Israel. That has turned into a hotspot, and Iran has made this possible for Hezbollah to move into Syrian territory very close to Israel and arm themselves to the point where it could turn into a major conflict.
Well, and indeed, in recent weeks, we saw for the first time ever an Iranian drone crossing into Israeli airspace, piloted by Iranians. What do you see as the consequences that Iran now feels strong enough, belligerent enough to be directly leading attacks on Israel with Iranian weapons by Iranians?
Well, it could have very serious conflict result from all of that. We know Israel will not be able to tolerate that kind of threat directly on their border. And so it's, I think it's a situation of significant concern.
And is Iran continuing its research and development and testing of ICBM technology?
They continue to develop and test their missiles. They claim it's not for that purpose, but there appears to be violations of UN security resolutions relative to what they're doing, and that is one of the malign activities that we're very concerned about.
And the missiles they're testing, they're not merely short-range missiles that might strike Israel, but they also include ICBMs that could reach the United States of America.
I'd like General Ashley to
So what they have in their inventory are short-range ballistic and medium-range ballistic missiles. They do have a space launch vehicle, the Samorg, which they've tested a couple of times. The reliability is not there. So today, if you were to ask me, does Iran have an ICBM capability? They do not. Is that aspirational? Yes. Could they take that space launch vehicle and start working that toward an ICBM capability? They could, but that is many years out.
Do we see indications of North Korea sharing their ICBM research and development with Iran?
So from an Iranian standpoint in their ballistic missile program, really the seed corn of their ballistic missile program started back in the 80s in the Iran-Iraq war. That was the Scud technology, and really where Iran wants to be right now is self-sufficient. So they want to have the ability not to depend on North Korea like they did back in the 80s. So they are self-sufficient in terms of how they're developing their program.
Let's shift for a minute to North Korea. In January 2018, Kim Jong-un publicly called for, quote, contact, travel, and cooperation between North and South Korea. And then yesterday, Kim Jong-un hosted a 10-member delegation of South Korean officials in Pyongyang. And according to President Moon's national security advisor, who led the delegation, North Korea signaled a, quote, clear intent to pursue denuclearization and is willing to hold talks with the U.S. Director Coates, do we have any reason to believe that Kim Jong-un would be willing to give up nuclear weapons?
He has repeatedly stated that he would not give that up. He sees that as existential to his regime's survival and to his own survival. We have seen nothing to indicate otherwise that he would be willing to give up those weapons.
So what do you make of these statements to the contrary? Is this simply propaganda? Is this, what's your assessment of it?
Well, I think it's too early to make a clear assessment. We need to hear from our interlocutors who will be coming here, as well as South Koreans, to discuss what they have discussed. I spoke earlier about my history here of watching this movie a couple of times before with both Republican and Democrat administrations, the frustration of getting into talks with North Korea and not succeeding, buying them time to do what they want to do. So I have very, very low confidence in what their intent might to be, if their intent is for denuclearizing. We have seen no evidence to that point, to that decision.
General, do you have a view on this question?
I agree with the director. I mean, everything we've seen leads us down a path that really the preservation of the regime from any kind of external threat is central to that weapons program. And the lessons he's taken away from the likes of Gaddafi that have given up programs puts him at risk. And it was surprising to see that in the paper this morning, and we'll see where the talks go.
Thank you.